So Larry Brown, former Philadelphia 76ers coach, said he had a Allen Iverson come to a seminar with SMU, and he had Allen Iverson talk, and they got to asking Allen Iverson who was the greatest player ever, and then Allen Iverson chimed in and said he was, and my reaction is kind of like, humble much? Now, I get asked all the time. Me and Allen Iverson, there's like a lot of players I've had to hear about pound for pound, like Sugar Ray Robinson, pound for pound. I don't do pound for pound. I don't. Because if I was to do pound for pound in my lifetime, like if I'm going pound for pound that I saw, I'd tell you Shaquille O'Neal. And then you might ask me, why would I say Shaq pound for pound? Because if we're going to go pound for pound, nobody stopped Shaq in his peak of his prime. His peak in his prime was better and bigger and more longer than Allen Iverson's. So when you start this pound for pound and peak for peak and all this other stuff, the problem you run into is that you're making up something to make it sound like it's something. So when you gotta, I heard LeBron James say this. I think Kobe once said it too. If he was this, if he was that, how not the totality that he was. But then again, I heard the same thing said about Isaiah Thomas, that if he was 6'6", he'd have been Michael Jordan too. Because Isaiah to me is still the best 6 foot and under guard I've seen. Steph Curry is considered a slight dude, and he's better than Iverson was. When you say this pound for pound mess, you acting like this guy was doing something superhuman. Now, for the culture, I will give you street cred, because Isaiah was so more cosmetic. You know, he played in Detroit, and you can't get too much rougher than any from Chicago. But the white teeth, I don't know. People, I don't know. The time period, they just didn't buy Isaiah. But he had a lot to his game. And I said the same thing about Steph Curry. And then John Stockton. Because if you put Iverson and Stockton, well, 5'11", 6'1", how you want to call it, inch or two, Stockton was bad at what he did. So what is your criteria for when you say this? But there's a lot of reasons why AI is one of the greatest players, but he's not in that conversation amongst the top. Not even amongst the guys that are 6'2" and under. To me, he doesn't. Because even though he was an MVP and he had scoring titles, to me, some of his game did not always lend it to its best interests. Whereas a guy like Stockton, I can so defend him